welcome back to another fun-packed session, which I know you've been raring to get into. And if at all possible, guys, I just mentioned this up front, there's been a kind of a trailing off of people putting their cameras on, and I do expect you, if at all possible, to do that, just to generate, the classroom vibe as best we can, so if you can do that. If some people do that and some people don't do that, then the kind of people that don't do that are not respecting the people that are doing that for going along with the course outline. So if you can, I would like that very, very much. And I can see all your happy faces, which is, the main point of it all. So yeah, we're in the realm of the urinary system this week, which you may have noticed, and we do have a case today. I'll get into that in a moment, and then next week's the eye, and then the week after that is the ear, and you may have noticed that if you look at the modules. So what we're going to do, I've got a fun quiz. Should we do the fun quiz? Because I can see that you're straining at the bit for a fun quiz. So let's have a look at that. All right, the urinary system. Let's do it. I've got some chats coming up. I always better just look at these in case anything's going on that I should know about. Worksheets are different from the case studies, but worth the same percentage. No, so there's no. I mean, it's easier, guys, if you just put your microphone and say, "Hey, Terence, what are the worksheets?" Because I might not look at the chat window, and you can just ask me, and I'll tell you. Yeah, these are just things that you do for yourself. They're just revision material. So, as far as getting marks, you've got a case today, and you've got a case right at the end of the course, and that's all of the cases that are going to be worth that, 10%. Yeah. All right. So the worksheets really aren't worth a hoot. They're just kind of for you to revise from. Okay. So urinary system, question 1. Let me just put the little polling booth up. We have got, which of these drives the process of blood filtration in a nephron? So hopefully you've looked at this stuff, and you'll know what a nephron is. So what drives blood filtration? Is it osmotic pressure? Is it diffusion? Is it blood pressure? Is it secondary active transport? Or is it peristalsis? I'm going to do my countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. What did the people think? Okay. So I guess it's kind of between A and C. So some people thought osmotic pressure, and that's always a good bet, isn't it, when we're talking about fluid? So, you take your chance. And the other one was blood pressure. And in fact, blood pressure is the correct answer. All right. So the first stage of producing urine in the kidney is all about, it's like a pressure filter. Okay. It's like having a sieve and kind of blasting something through it. Like you can imagine that you've got like a saucepan full of peas and you're draining it through the sieve. Okay, it's the weight of the water that's dragging it through the sieve. In the kidney, it's actually blood pressure from the heart. And that's all done in a little thing called the glomerulus. So it's the first stage of urine production. Okay, and this is why if you're seriously ill and your blood pressure drops, let's just say, what can we make up? Okay, you've had a severe bleed or something, okay, and you've had a hemorrhage and your blood pressure's dropped and you're in emergency and then you're in intensive care. The next thing that happens is that you have renal failure, okay, and your kidneys pack up, and that's because your blood pressure's so dicey, all right? So you need blood pressure to drive the first part of urine production, which is called glomerular filtration. Is that you've got this structure. So each nephron has got these components. You've got this structure called the glomerulus, which is kind of a bunch of capillaries, and blood goes in and blood comes out. And incidentally, the two blood vessels that supply that are both called arteries, so it's kind of weird from that sense. Remember, normally you have arterial blood going into a bunch of capillaries, and yeah, you have it's on the venous side, you'd get like a venule, on the other side, but they're both called arteries. And that's called the afferent one coming in, and that's called the efferent one coming out. Okay. And they control the blood flowing into this structure called the glomerulus, which is specialized capillaries. They're not really like any of the capillaries in the body. They've got these kind of very precise little kind of gaps in them between the cells, and it allows certain things to come out. Okay, and you've got about 1 million of these nephrons in each kidney, just so that you've got some kind of scale. And then there's a kind of a cup, and of course it's 3D, and I can't this kind of wraps around the thing called the glomerulus, so it's difficult to draw. And that kind of collects all the urine, or in that case, at that stage, we call it filtrate. So things come out. Now, what comes out is basically small things. If you think of it as a sieve. Oh, yes, please. Yeah. Oh, okay. These are in the cortex, which is kind of the outer. There's we divide the kidney into like superficial stuff, a bit like the brain, superficial stuff. That's the cortex, and then deep stuff is the medulla. So these glomeruli, the glomerulus is in the outer part in the cortex, and and then you got tubes coming off from that, and some of the tubes dip very deep into the medulla region. Does that answer your question, Angela? Or yeah, okay. So we've got this kind of collecting thing. I'm just going to draw it like that. Can anybody name it while we're at it? Just so I feel like there's other people in my virtual world. It's Bowman's capsule, isn't it? Yeah. So whoever old Bowman was, he discovered these capsules, and this is where the urine's collected. Now, so imagine it as being like a cup. It's a 3D structure, and then kind of urine, or as I should say, at this point we call it filtrate because it needs extra processing. So it's like a factory, and the first thing that happens is this filtration, and what's driving it is blood pressure. So BP is driving his nephrons. So I'm not going to go into it too much, but just to kind of remind you that, so this all depends on blood pressure, okay? And then what have we got to do? We've got to get a lot of that stuff back, and that's the process called reabsorption. And reabsorption goes on in lots of places. It kind of goes on here, it goes on here, and it's basically pulling stuff back out of the tube into this kind of area here, which is kind of interstitial space, but in that area here, you've got what we call peritubular capillaries, that, the stuff is reabsorbed into. And then that goes back into the circulation. So that's all to do with reabsorption. In less than ideal conditions in a hot garage. As the vocalist of the group, the physical demands on Petra have been high, and she's exhausted but happy. Are you exhausted but happy? You're just exhausted, I guess. The first recording went smoothly, and she's confident that the album will be a success. However, as the train approaches the station where Petra needs to disembark, a sudden pain strikes her in her right flank. The pain only lasts a few minutes. Petra forgets the episode, and after picking up some groceries, is there too much detail in this? Picking up some groceries, she goes home and rests for a few minutes. The same pain, this time dull and throbbing, returns and lasts for nearly 30 minutes. The pain does not completely go away. Petra eats dinner and reads a book. At 10 p.m, the intense surges of pain return. The pain continues through the night, along with nausea and one episode of vomiting. The pain is now lower in the abdomen. The next morning, the pain is severe, and Petra notices her urine appears cloudy. After calling her band... So you can imagine this pressure, which is actually, so it's a physical pressure, and we've got it in this kidney, they've done it for me. It's actually a physical hydrostatic pressure that's kind of forcing filtrate almost back up into the nephrons, and that can actually end up damaging the nephrons, damaging the glomeruli, and eventually you can actually destroy your own kidneys. So these are serious things if you get a blockage. So kidney stones, renal calculi, what are they? All right, so between this case and between the slides, you should be able to figure out these questions. So yeah, it is a bit different this week. I haven't gone through every question like I usually do, but I think there's enough kind of clues in the slides, and I think you've got the, I think you've got the lobes to do it, you know, as they say on Star Trek. Now, before I kick you out, just any questions about any of this that occur to you? Is there kind of something that's like a burning? Well, you didn't explain that very well, Morris. Can you just like give us a clue? Throw us a bone. Oh, convoluted. Yeah, convoluted means that it goes in many directions. It's like if you were explaining something to somebody, and it wasn't a simple thing to explain, you could have a very convoluted explanation, or you have a very convoluted argument. It goes off in all sorts of directions. So those tubules, that's what they do, you know. If you look at the real ones, not the ones that I've drawn, you know, they're got a very curious route. All right, so has everybody had enough? Okay, so that's the case for this week. So do your best, look at those slides. I've tried to put tons of information in those slides for you. It's all in there. You just got to join the dots up, all right? Okay, and yeah, that's it for this week. And next week, we'll be into the eyeball, I believe. All right, so thanks, guys.